Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Employers spend so much energy figuring out new ways to screw over their employees who they claim are like family. Our OP in today's story showed an example of how to deal with such bosses. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Page 34 in your own manual, sir. Here's something I hope that others can turn to their own advantage. Small, but does the job. I took a few years off to have kids. Ladies, you know the drill. Then back to retail to gain a reference for a part-time office job in a company I shall call DaBiz. Once hired at DaBiz, I improved and expanded that job by reading the manuals and taking on responsibilities for technical tasks that nobody else wanted to learn how to do. Spreadsheets, backups, documentation, inventory. All my life, I've avoided being manipulated by experts. My parents, my teachers, my church, my classmates. Nobody at DaBiz was a patch on the butt of my sweet, conniving little old grandma. So when the first thing HR said upon hiring me was, "Last hired, first fired, we can lay you off at any time without reason," I knew it was time to study the employee manual. Part-time work had definite advantages. For instance, when the kids did the chicken pox at the classic 2-week intervals, if I'd been full-time, they would have fired me. Said so right there in that employee manual. Such sweethearts. I worked very hard and was amused at the contortions my employers went through to keep me legal. There's a limit to the number of hours one can work in a calendar year and still be considered part-time. I invariably ran out of hours in early October. Somehow, they would contrive to keep me working without bennies for the rest of the year. Suddenly, at 4 years and 8 months, they offered to let me go full-time. This was entirely unexpected. The kids were old enough, I was already considering it, but for them to offer without being asked, no applications, interviews, and ceremonial groveling, garbage alarm goes double whoopee-ding-ding. Back to the manual. Oh, well, that's entirely characteristic of DaBiz. That's very kind of you, sir. I shall be happy to go full-time in 4 months as soon as I've celebrated my 5th anniversary with DaBiz. 4 months? We want you to start right away. But you see, sir, if I go full-time before working a full 5 years, I lose all seniority and the extra week of vacation I've worked so hard for. It's right here in your employee manual. If I wait 4 months, I keep my seniority and vacation. If I stay part-time forever, I still keep my seniority and vacation, and of course my flexibility if there's a family crisis. It makes no difference to my paycheck, as you're not offering a raise. Indeed, without a raise to support the cost of your benefits, take-home pay will be less. He looked at me, I looked at him, and we understood each other perfectly. Nice try. Go tell your boss it didn't work. You know, the jerk who made the secretaries type up his thesis and made me tweak all the graphs to make his data support his conclusions? I went full-time shortly after my 5th anniversary and worked there for another 15 years. This just goes to show that people should make the effort to read the handbook. It's there for your protection. And our second story. Entitled Mom. Hello, corporate. One of your employees didn't let me rob the store. I want him fired. Strap in, y'all. This is my favorite story to share from my time in retail. This lady was absolutely bonkers. So this happened a few years ago when I was working part-time at a clothing outlet. Let's just say that this company sells higher-end clothing and caters almost exclusively to Karens. My life was hell for those 2 years. God bless those who work there full-time. You're the real heroes. Cast. Me equals yours truly. EM equals lady who has clearly never interacted with another human being. EK equals her screaming 1-year-old. And CO equals my poor coworker. Let me start by saying this was a Saturday shift in a crowded shopping mall, and I was working a double to cover for a coworker. I'd recently been promoted to shift lead, and I was the manager on duty that day and was closing. Fast forward to the end of the day. The day was insane, and by the end of it, both my coworker and I were exhausted. We were tidying up the store and taking care of all the go-backs when I heard the door open. It was 8:53. We close at 9. Enter entitled mom and her kid. Typically, if we have customers that come in that late, it's to grab a gift card or something. We do have the occasional shopper that comes in right before close and stays a while, but they're typically fairly quick when they realize they're the only ones there holding us up. Not tonight. The first thing I notice is that EK is screaming, like it sounds like someone's ripping off his arms level screams. I walk up to greet EM over the sounds of her screaming offspring. Me. Good evening, ma'am. Is there something that I can help you find today? EM. No thanks, just browsing. The worst answer. Me. Okay, well let me know if you need any help with anything before I close the dressing rooms. My little way of insinuating that it's late and I want to go home? EM. Well, I'll definitely need a dressing room. Can you go ahead and start one for me? Me. Yelling at this point over the sounds of EK screaming. Sure thing. EM. Sorry about him, he's had a long day. Haven't we all? As I walk away, I notice that EM has a trash bag full of clothes underneath the stroller that's carting around her screaming toddler. Odd, but whatever. Maybe she has a Goodwill donation. For the next hour and a half, this woman tries on every article of clothing in the store. Per corporate policy, we can't rush guests as they shop as long as they come in before close. We tried everything. Turning off the music, sweeping the floor, closing the 2 out of the 3 registers, etc. Pretty much all the indicators that we're closed and to get the F out. And yet she stayed, and her kid screamed for an hour of it before he fell asleep. At around 10:30, she's ready to check out. I have CO start to ring her up so I can get closing started in the back and get us the heck out of here. I'm in the stockroom when I hear the screams. I rush out and find this lady screaming, and coworker, who's one of the nicest people I've ever known, is crying at this point. Me. What seems to be the problem? Anything I can help with? EM. Yes, you can fire this idiot because she's treating me like absolute garbage. I don't think corporate will be very happy to hear how their employees are treating paying customers. CO looks at me with tear-filled eyes. Me. CO, will you go to the back and finish the online orders for me? I'll take care of EM. Okay, ma'am, what can I help you with? EM. Well, I was trying to get these clothes returned so I can put the credit towards my purchase. EM then takes out the full garbage bag of clothes and dumps it out in front of me. Technically, the clothes in the bag were all from the store where I worked. However, they were all a year older or more, clearly well worn, no tags. Me. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but you cannot return these. EM. What? Why not? Me. Well, for one, they don't have any tags, you don't have a receipt, and they've clearly been washed and worn by you for quite some time. Returns are typically recent purchases that don't quite fit. EM. Well, these don't fit me anymore, so I'd like to return them. Said in a very condescending tone. Me. Our return policy is 30 days, and it can't be washed, and you need a tag or receipt. EM. Can't you just give me store credit? Me. No, I cannot. You can try resale shops if you want to, but we aren't a thrift store. These pieces aren't even in production anymore. EM. I'm not an idiot. I know these clothes are from a while ago because I'm the one who bought them. They don't fit me anymore because I was busy creating human life. And now I need new clothes. She gestures to her poor, exhausted child, who at this point has woken up and begun to scream again. Me. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I still can't accept these as returns. Can I help you purchase the clothes you picked out today? EM. Like hell you can't! I've had a long day and deserve this. I can't afford to buy these without returning my old clothes. Me. Then I don't know what I can do for you. EM. You can get me your manager. Me. Full of satisfaction. I'm the manager on the floor tonight. EM. Well, then you are so screwed. I'm calling corporate to report you and CO. Me. Here's their number. Call center opens tomorrow at 7 a.m. EM's mouth dropped. Sure, she didn't expect me to be so cavalier about getting reported, but I didn't give a single F at this point. She was quiet for a moment and took a deep breath and asked if I could help her bag up her old clothes to take with her so she could give her screaming child a snack. I was pretty shocked at the abrupt mood change, but whatever. I'm exhausted and want to leave so bad. I start bagging up her old clothes, which she reached down to grab her kid's snack. As I'm putting the clothes in the bag, she reaches over the counter, grabs the clothes she was going to purchase, and then runs towards the door. I just stand there because it's against our policy to stop people from shoplifting anyway, and I've locked the doors to prevent people from coming in. She gets to the doors and violently yanks the handle back and forth, trying to open them. I calmly walk over. EM, let me out! Me, sure thing. I hold out my hands for the clothes. She glares at me, then wisely decides it's not worth it. She shoves the clothes at me and turns away, muttering obscenities at me as she does so. I unlock the door and she leaves. As if that encounter wasn't crazy enough, she actually called corporate to complain after literally trying to shoplift from our store. What a wild ride. And our last story. HOA Karen sold my land near the river to all the neighbors at once. I was born into a family of wealth and privilege. My parents had high expectations for me, but I struggled in school and lacked interest in the family business. My siblings were all successful and accomplished, while I felt like a complete failure. Feeling lost and alone, I decided to travel the world. I worked odd jobs and learned new skills along the way. I discovered a passion for photography and began capturing the beauty of the places I visited. After a few years, I returned home with a newfound confidence and determination to make something of myself. But that's not the point now. I've had many experiences and stories from my travels, and I'd like to share some of them here. I hope that while writing them, I'll also get some experience, and in time, I'll become not so crooked. LOL. Fred lived on a riverbank. About 50 meters from the house was a home ownership company area, a small neighborhood of about 30 houses. Kind of like our HOA. Fred used to mow the grass sometimes, but he didn't really look after the lawn. The land was not fenced, but the documents of the whole rectangular area of 100 by 40 meters with a house in the center belonged to Fred. One morning on a summer day, Fred noticed people measuring the area. He went to ask what was going on there, and it turned out that the HOA was going to build a small park for the residents of the HOA to enjoy. Karen, the HOA president, hired some cheap construction crew, and construction will start in a week when the final plan is ready. Fred was a little freaked out by the story, asked the men to leave, but they said they wouldn't leave until they'd measured the whole area. The police were called, but by the time they arrived, the surveyors were gone. Fred had no choice but to go to Karen's office. In fact, it turned out that Karen thought it was public land. She made fake copies of the project to buy land for the property of the HOA and collected money for the park from all residents. The plan was to build a park on public land and then to put it on the balance of city maintenance through bribes, while the money for the construction and maintenance was to be collected from the residents of the housing cooperative. Karen just didn't take into account that the land isn't state land. It belongs to Fred. Also, she didn't take into account that the plan is super dumb, even if the land was public, just for the record. That's a great plan, Karen. That's ingenious if I understand it correctly. It's a Swiss watch. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.